Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Bailey here, and welcome to a video where I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most anticipated films of 2019. That's right, this video is going to be me discussing 10 movies that are coming out next year that I'm most anticipated for, that I want to go see, to see how things might go with this. And like I said, if you want to leave me your own list in the comment section below, feel free to do that. But for right now, let's get into my picks for the top 10 most anticipated films of 2019, in my opinion. Number 10. So for number 10, I'm going to have to go with the Lego Movie 2. Or it's technically called the Lego Movie 2, the second part, but I gotta say, this film is pretty interesting. I mean, the fact that they released the first movie of the Lego Movie back in 2014, and which was technically 5 years ago, and I even looked at the plot for this movie, and it does technically say it takes place 5 years later, so that is pretty interesting that it takes place exactly 5 years after the events of the first film, and it was released 5 years later, so I guess that would kind of make sense. However, the way that from the trailers I've seen of the movie, I mean, I am still interested to see how they consider this movie, but there is something that I'm a little concerned about and worried for this movie, and that's mostly regarding the little characters that we saw at the end of Lego Movie 1, whatever, and how if they are even gonna appear in this movie more than or whatever, thanks to their little cameo at the end or whatever. I know that there's other new characters, but I want to see if these old new characters that showed up at the end of number 1 will show up a lot. So I am interested to see how this goes, but for number 10, I'll have to go with the Lego Movie 2. Number 9. So for my number 9 spot of my most anticipated film, I'm going to have to go with Artemis Fowl. Yeah, the reason why I'm putting this as sort of a most anticipated film is mostly because I'm interested to see how this movie goes. Because, like I said, I could have sworn that there was already an Artemis Fowl movie around the time when either Spy Kids 2 or 3 or whatever came out. I don't know, 1 or 2. I think it was Spy Kids 2 is when the movie that showed a preview of Artemis Fowl. I'm not 100% sure, but if you have the movie of Spy Kids 2 or any of the Spy Kids movies, look at the previews for those movies and tell me if any of those mentioned Artemis Fowl. If not, then I guess I was wrong. Whatever, and let me know in the comment section below what you saw or what you found out. But for this version of Artemis Fowl, I gotta say, this is definitely a little more intense than what I thought I saw. But I mean, I am interested to see how this movie goes, because there's a lot of books based on Artemis Fowl, and if this is based on the very first book, then it would be interesting to see if it relates at all with the book. But yeah, so for my number 9 spot on most anticipated films of 2019, I'm going to have to go with Artemis Fowl. Number 8. So for my number 8 spot, I'm going to have to go with Aladdin. That's right, this is the live action adaptation of Aladdin, the classic Disney animated film that we all loved Robin Williams in. And speaking of Robin Williams, I know this happened a long time ago, but rest in peace, Robin Williams. He was by far the best comedic actor I've ever seen in movies, and he did such a great job in movies like I said, Aladdin, and what else? Mrs. Doubtfire, which was a good movie. Jumanji, the first one. All 3 Night at the Museum films, and Night at the Museum 3 was technically the last movie he was in before he died. whatever, that he finished filming. So, like I said, rest in peace, Robin Williams. But yeah, for honestly, the reason why I'm putting Aladdin on this list is mostly because I'm interested to see how they interpret the genie character with Will Smith as the replacement of Robin Williams. I mean, mainly because I've seen some sort of official looks at what the genie is going to probably look like, whatever, and the way that they made Will Smith's facial expressions with his hair and everything looks like the genie. But if they just make his skin blue, or whatever, like if they computer animate his skin to be blue, whatever, and it really is just his face. I mean, I hope they do. I hope besides that, like, put that to the side. I hope this movie is as good as they are gonna make it. And so for number 8, I'm gonna have to go with Aladdin. Number 7. So for my number 7 anticipated film, I'm going to have to go with Jumanji 3. Now, that's right. I heard that there is going to possibly be a Jumanji 3 movie in 2019 around December time, or whatever, so a year from now, and I am curiously interested to see how they interpret this. But whatever, because if you recall from the first 2 Jumanji movies, like you got the one with Robin Williams, where it was in the board game form, and it even showed us the origin of it in 1869, I believe, when these 2 boys tried to get rid of it, which I've been theorizing that it could be possible that those 2 boys were possibly the creators of the game, whatever, and after they were tried to play it, their creation, they realized it was horrible and they wanted to try to get rid of it. And I mean, it made me come up with this theory, because even the older boy said, or responded to when the little one said, "What if someone digs it up? May God have mercy on his soul." Like, and then as we saw in the first ever Jumanji movie, Alan Parrish, aka played by Robin Williams, as his older self, found it when he was a kid. Him and Sarah accidentally started playing it, and it changed his life forever. And the one thing that intrigues me about all these characters who play the game is that they're the only ones who remember anything that happened in during the events of them playing the game. Just like in Jumanji 2, Welcome to the Jungle. I mean, the kids were the only ones who really knew what happened, and like the Freak house was back to normal, but only Alex Freak, as an adult now, knew what happened because he recognized the kids. And I'm interested to see what they do in this 3rd movie, specifically because of the fact that all the characters that were in the game, played by Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Karen Gillan, are all reprising their roles or whatever, which I'm interested to see how that possibly turns out. Like, I really hope I could see why they wanted to try to do a 3rd movie, because when you saw the end of Jumanji 2, they did smash the console, but perhaps they didn't actually, because remember, it shrunk into this little game piece, whatever, and even though they crashed the console, the game piece could have just fallen out right there. Who knows? Someone could possibly find it there, or whatever, newly made. They can't get rid of the game unless they actually destroy the game. So I'm interested to see how this goes. But for number 7, I'm gonna have to go with Jumanji 3. Number 6. So for number 6, I was originally not gonna put this on here, but now I'm interested to see how this movie goes, and that is Godzilla King of Monsters, or King of the Monsters, which is the direct sequel to the movie Godzilla from 2014. And honestly, once again, this is 5 years it took to release the film. whatever, just like it did with Lego Movie and everything. So, and I saw a little bit of the trailer, and I'm interested to see how this goes. I mean, I'm gonna probably have to rewatch the first Godzilla to see what this movie could possibly be about before I actually go see it. But I gotta say, this film does look interesting, and so for number 6, I'm gonna have to go with Godzilla King of the Monsters. Number 5. So now we're getting into my top 5 anticipated films of the year, of next year. So for number 5, I am going to have to go with Spider-Man Far From Home. That's right. I'm really interested to see this movie, not just because it takes place after Avengers 4, but mostly because I'm interested to see how they interpret this movie, since I've heard a lot of rumors that, which are definitely true, that Mysterio, who was a main antagonist of Spider-Man in the comics, is going to be in this film. But the rumors of me hearing him to be a good guy in this movie, there's a slim chance that he's actually gonna be a permanent good guy in this film. And however, there was a few rumors about this one that says maybe he could just be pretending to be a good guy, and then when he realizes that Nick Fury probably doesn't care about him or whatever, and he's trying to help Spider-Man, that's why Spider-Man becomes a permanent enemy of Mysterio, and he is the master of illusions or whatever, and maybe he's the one who probably caused these elementals whatever to try to show Nick Fury that he could also be a hero, but all he had his focus on was Spider-Man. Maybe that could be what the movie's about, whatever. But I am interested to see how this movie turns out, because I swear, if they actually weren't kidding and he is considered to be a permanent good guy by the end of the film, I'll be like, what did you do, Marvel, to a crucial villain of Spider-Man? But anyway, so for number 5, I'm going to have to go with Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 4. So from number 4, I didn't honestly think I didn't even realize they were going to make this until I saw the first trailer to it back in June, and that is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which is the third and final installment of the How to Train Your Dragon newly made trilogy. And the reason why I am most anticipated to see this film is it does finally introduce to us another sort of connection of breed to Toothless's kind of Night Fury, but in this case, Light Furies. And those are white creatures that you can barely see during the day, just like Toothless is a Night Fury, where you can almost never see him during the nighttime. And I gotta say, it would be really interesting to see how they interpret this series, and specifically the main villain of the film is not even Drago Bloodfist anymore. It's this new guy, whatever, I forgot his name, but I think it was Grimmel was his name, but I will be interested to see if possibly Drago Bloodfist reappears, because he didn't technically die at the end of the film, of the second film. He just went underwater with that dragon that he was on, and so I am interested to see if he possibly returns in this film. But there's been a lot of rumors that Stoic the Vast, who, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, he did die in How to Train Your Dragon 2, but the fact that the guy that voiced him is coming back to play the same character, it could be possible that it's just for flashbacks, because there was some things in the trailer about flashbacks, but specifically the second trailer, but I am interested to see how that goes. So for number 4, I'm going to have to go with How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Number 3. So for number 3, I would have to go with The Lion King. That's right. This is another live-action Disney adaptation of a classic film from the 90s, and that is The Lion King, which I just love The Lion King movie, the animated version. I think I actually have that somewhere over here in my collection of movies. And the fact that they're remaking it into a live-action adaptation, still based on the exact same story, I'm interested to see this. Specifically because it was directed by the exact same... It's being directed by the same person who made the live-action adaptation of The Jungle Book, which I gotta say wasn't too bad, whatever. And I am interested to see if he can pull it off as again with The Lion King. So, and the director, you ask, is none other than the one we know in the Marvel Universe as Harold Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau. He directed the first Iron Man movie, and I think he did the second one too, but, I mean, I am interested to see how he interprets this movie. So, for number 3, I'm going to have to go with The Lion King. Number 2. So, it was hard to decide on my number 1 and number 2 spot, but for number 2, I'm going to have to go with Captain Marvel. That's right, this is the first ever Marvel Cinematic Universe film that has had a female lead role of a female superhero, and that's Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. And I gotta say, I am interested to see how this movie could potentially set up the new story arc from post Phase 4, whatever, because we are finally getting to see the Skrull-Kree War, whatever, that was, I think it could have possibly been mentioned in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, because there is two characters in that movie that are showing up in this movie, and that is Korath and Ronan the Accuser, who were both teammates during the Guardians of the Galaxy film. So, and I read that Korath is specifically a member of the Star Force, which is the same team that Carol Danvers is on throughout most of the movie. But I am interested to see how this plays out. I mean, we finally get a female lead role in superheroes, so number 2 is going to be Captain Marvel. Okay, so before I do my number 1, I want to give out some honorable mentions. I have 3 that I was going to put on the list, but then I thought, maybe it's not... maybe I might like them, I might not, but... So, my honorable mentions are Frozen 2, Secret Life of Pets 2, and finally, Men in Black International. And finally, for my number 1 most anticipated film of next year, I mean, you all knew this was going to make it somewhere on the list, but I'm going to have to go with Avengers Endgame. That's right, the 4th and final installment movie of Phase 3 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And honestly, I am intrigued to see how this movie goes, because I just found out recently that so far they're only done half the editing of the movie, so and since they're already halfway done and it still clocks in around 3 hours long, it's safe to assume then that could possibly be, this has already possibly been confirmed as the longest MCU movie they have ever done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which, honestly, even if it's not technically 3 hours, I guarantee you it's probably gonna be at least over 2 hours and 45 minutes, because there is, I think, one other Marvel movie that clocked in around that time, whatever, and if this is considered to be the longest one, they have to make it over that time. But so yeah, for my number 1 spot, I'm gonna have to go with Avengers Endgame. So that is my list for my top 10 most anticipated films of 2019. And like I said, if you want to show me your own list, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, I will see all you dudes in the next video.